Hi, everybody. It's me again. I gave some thought this week to what I wanted to read for you. And it occurred to me that I could read something to you and plug something at the same time. So I've decided that I'm going to read a short story to you that I wrote last year. And it was written specifically for this anthology of short stories. It's a benefit anthology with all the proceeds going to the Sirens conference in Denver in October. Every story in here is written by someone who's gone to Sirens and gotten something from it and wanted to give back. Some really great stories. It is available at Amazon. Please go and check them out. But what I'm going to read for you today is the story I contributed to this anthology. I'm also the editor, but that's less important at the moment. So our theme last year, as you can see from the cover, was Heroes and Hellions. We always match the theme of our anthology to the theme of the event for the year, and last year's theme was Heroes. And this year's is Villains, so I'm very excited about that. And I wanted to play a little bit with the idea of what determines if you're the hero or the hellion, or whether your hero is just the hellion. So this is the story that came about for that. And it's slightly longer than the stuff I've been doing, but I think we can get through it without it being like an hour. It's not that long. This is called The Devils of Dead End. A little post-apocalyptic story. So there you go. The Devils of Dead End. Mock tells me that everyone has a backstory, even if we don't know what it is. I think she probably means it to be comforting, but somehow it does little to comfort me as I stand here, looking at a reflection that tells a story I do not know. The mirror speaks no lie, and the pictures embellishing my body are clear in their tale of violence and pain, even if the source of that violence and pain is shrouded in a past I can't remember. The scars are an odd mix painted across my back and belly, some wandering off to my hips and thighs. I turn to see them in the small mirror hanging on the wall, try to reason them out. Some are pitted in red, others are raised in white. Then there's the skin that looks melted, like candle wax that is spilled and pooled and hardened into grotesque shapes. A long, thin, white scar runs along my jawline on the right side, from my ear down to just under my chin. Whatever cut me might have killed me had it dug any deeper into my throat. There's a thick scar on my left arm just above my elbow, all raised and red and angry looking. There are myriad smaller ones on my hands and even my legs, but those aren't remarkable, not like my back and stomach. I bend my knees in an attempt to see more of my deformity. Mock is not a tall woman, and the mirror hangs so that she can look at her own face. And I start at the sight of blackened holes above and below my shoulder blades. My hand reaches around to try to touch them, and as my finger brushes over the ridge of hard skin around one, flashes come in the dark space that is my memory. They are strange and in no order that I can discern. Fire pouring like a liquid onto me, falling and tumbling and crashing down as if from some great height, a heated knife and searing pain. It steals my breath, and I take my hand away, no longer sure I want to remember what I have forgotten. Instead, I turn toward the tub behind me. Mock has pulled me up a bath with water from the meager spring rains and collected morning dew, and supplemented when the water merchant brought his caravan through town. It wasn't a common thing here, having enough water to sit your ass in to soak the dirt out of your skin. She had heated the water on a wood-burning stove that kept the whole of the house warm in the winter, dumping it into a basin barely big enough for a person my size to sit in. Then she left me to strip down, leaving a scratchy thin towel and a change of clothes she'd stolen from someone for me to wear when I was done. I sink into the tub, savoring the feeling of water against my skin. It stirs other fragments of memories, but as I concentrate on them, they skip away, and I am left with just as much black as before. They found me nearly a week ago, on the South End Road into town, a place Mock calls Dead End. I was unconscious and bloody, a deep cut on my forehead and another on my left hand, with bruises on my face and thighs and stomach. I woke up in Doc Joseph's office with Mock and the doc staring down at me. Mock owns the rooming house. She's also the town's de facto mayor because no one really wants the job, but people listen when she speaks. She's ancient, her hair long gone white except for where it's fallen out, and her wicked tongue spits sharp words at everyone she meets, not just the ones who don't remember who they are. She stooped over, her back rounded from years of walking that way, but even at full height, she wouldn't stand 5 foot tall. I spent the first few days there, submitting to Doc Joseph's questioning about my wounds and how I'd found myself in this forgotten little town where the most excitement is usually some bar fight on a Saturday night. Then Mock told me she'd give me her back bedroom, a small room with a lumpy bed and not much else, if I agreed to helping her out with the chores she couldn't do anymore. The bath is something of a luxury in a place like this, where water is scarce. Mock tells me not to get used to it and not to let anyone know she'd sacrificed that much water for a stranger, sorry. But I was covered in dust from the road and where the doc hadn't wiped it with gauze to address my wounds, and my clothing had been stiff with dirt and wear. I scrub at skin that is dark from the sun, darker than any of the folks I've met in my time here, save the sheriff, B.B. LaRoe, a lanking, loping black man I'd met the day before. My skin is tinged red rather than his brown, and the parts of me that didn't see the sun were redder still. I scoop water up to wash down my small breasts and up over the short-cropped black hair, scrubbing my hand through it to loosen the dust that coated my scalp. The water is dark with dirt I've cleaned off of me as I rise and reach for the scratchy towel Mock left. Once I am dry, I lift my jeans and shirt from the floor beside the tub and drop them in the water. No point wasting it. I let them soak while I dress in the stolen pair of black trousers that are only slightly too big, and a button-down brown shirt. My boots are dusty from the road, with dried mud caked in the treads, but they are serviceable. After scrubbing my clothes mostly clean, I wring them out and take them and my boots out of the bathing room and out to the back porch, draping them over the railing to dry before finding a stick under the near-dead tree to pick my boot treads clean. By the time I am done and my boots are once again on my feet, I feel near enough to get on with things. I find Mock in the living space of the rooming house, setting out tea and biscuits for the two of us. Behind her on the wall is a map, but I don't recognize the names or the places. Mock thumbs a gesture back at it as she sits back with her cup of tea and biscuit. Don't look like that no more, Mock says. Most of that West End is underwater after the quakes and tremblers shook and the volcanoes all spewed their fire and ash. Weren't much left. I search the black that is my mind for any idea of the destruction she's talking about, but there is nothing there. You're too young, Mock says, as if she can read my thoughts. Wouldn't remember. I was just a wee child. I nod absently, taking my cup of tea and sitting in one of her comfortable-looking chairs. Ma told me about it and what come before. Mock shakes her head, knocking what's left of her hair from the tiny ponytail it had been in. Stories about weapons made to destroy the world, falling against old women with the power to save it, mortal and immortal, colliding on a night when the veil was thin, broke the seals, shook the foundations, and strange creatures from storybooks and legends come walking the earth. Storms that turned the land to sea, and the sickness that swept across the land like a plague from old. The black night that lasted almost a year, and the fire raining down. She looks behind her at the map and turns to poke a bony finger at a spot. Dead end. Wasn't always called that, but no one remembers much anymore. I'm not sure what to say, so I focus on eating my biscuit and drinking my tea. Part of me wants to ask what happened to cause it all, but I'm not sure Mock even knows. It sounds like it began long before she was born. Listen to me, all maudlin and old. Eat up, we have work to do. The rooming house has 5 bedrooms. Mock rents out to those that migrate through the area. Most come to hunt in the desert around Dead End for the little bit of game to be had, snakes and wiry rabbits and the like, or for more lucrative fare like the artifacts of the city that used to be here that come pushing up through the sands. Right now, there's 2 men staying, though I haven't yet seen them. We finish eating, and I carry the tray with our dishes to the small kitchen. We got enough daylight to see to the side porch, Mock says, gesturing with her head to a door. I follow her out onto a sagging wooden porch on the shady side of the house. The boards that make the floor are all warped, dipping low and dangerous in several places. The rails that once formed a line around the edges are broken or collapsed, and the roof looks as though it might fall if a strong wind blew through. Looking at it, I know what needs doing, though I'm not sure how I know. I'd start with that roof, I say, squinting up at it. Mock nods and hooks a thumb over her shoulder towards a pile of wood that looks all weathered and old. I cross to it and pick through until I find a couple of 2x2s that look tall enough to support the weight of the roof while we work on the floor. We will eventually need a more permanent solution, but for now they would do. The look on Mock's face as I return with the wood and drop one of them to the ground is indescribable. When I lift the one still in my hands, setting the top end up under the roof and heave upward, her gasp is audible. I lift until I can kick the bottom of the 2x2 in toward the porch, parallel to the post already there. When I repeat the thing on the other side, Mock looks at me as if I've grown another head. Never saw the like, Mock murmurs. In the moment, I'm not entirely certain what she means. We burn away the rest of the afternoon, pulling up the floorboards and putting in new supports underneath. By the time the dark begins to eat its way through town, we are both dusty and dry. I find I am pleasantly sore as Mock starts to make dinner and I withdraw to wipe the dust from my skin. The next few days are the same. Mock hands me a list of chores and I set to them, finding the physical labor well suited to hands that are calloused and strong. Sometimes Mock watches me, shaking her head in wonder, but she never asks me any of the questions I feel simmering beneath the surface. My hands are accustomed to tools, and my body to the work. I have done these things before. It's the work that sparks memories. As I am painting a fresh coat of white on the newly repaired porch, I see myself younger, with a paintbrush in my hand, and a man standing over me. His voice is smooth and elegant, even as he berates me and tells me I need to go faster. While rummaging in the shed out back for a tin of nails Mock tells me is there, I flush with fear and the shadows beckon me to hide. As I squat down behind some boxes, that fear is joined by the memory of pain, my back bloody and hot. I must have been an awful child to be so horribly punished. That is the thought that fills my head as I flee the dark of the shed and go back to the harsh light of the sun. Thoughts like it come when I sleep, in the man's soothing voice telling me I am evil, that I am sinful. I still don't remember my name or where I came from, but this comes unbidden, and I am filled with shame. It is deep enough feeling that I seek the solace of solitude most of the time. My skin darkens as I work in the sun, and working is where I find my only relief from my shame. I seem to know that this is what I was built for. His voice only gentles when I work hard and keep silent. It's a quiet way to live, and I feel like maybe I need that quiet. Whatever my life was before, it was clearly messy and filled with violence. I'd like to think I'd earned something nicer, paid my dues, as it were. Of course, I probably should have known that a life of violence has its own rewards, and whatever had driven me to dead end wouldn't leave me there without saying goodbye. I'm at the saloon on a Saturday afternoon, drinking the local hooch made of mesquite and cactus and fermented in big copper kettles that the barkeep Waylon had brought down from way up north, near where the last quake and trembler dropped a whole city into the ocean, if you can believe anything he says after his first glass of the stuff. It's wretched, not gonna lie. But I've spent 2 days rebuilding the stairs to Mock's root cellar with wood we salvaged from a building on the outskirts, and I think I've earned me a little wretched buzz. My hair is freshly shaved on the sides, the top flopped over to the right as I cradle the tin cup in my hands. I'm listening to the first tall tale of the day, told by a kid hardly old enough to even be in the saloon, if anyone stuck to those rules, when I feel it. There's a wrongness to the air, a chill riding in on the hot, sticky wind that's normal this time of year here in Dead End, according to the locals. Outside the window, the sky is turning dark, the crystal blue becoming smoky black as if a storm is rolling in. We all turn to look, me, Waylon behind the bar, old Maya who entertains the men, and Billsy, the kid. Waylon frowns as he steps out from behind the bar. Ain't time yet for the storms. Maybe we get some rain, Billsy says, moving toward the window. Ain't been rain outside of spring longer than I've been alive. They don't look like rain clouds, I say. I'm not entirely sure how I know that, but I do. In fact, it isn't even rightly clouds at all. Nothing is blocking out the sky. The sky itself is turning black, like night has come hours early. I step out onto the wooden walkway, squinting into a sudden wind that comes rushing up from South End. It gusts past me, then seems to circle back, forming a funnel cloud that tears down the bit of asphalt that forms the center of town. It stops, spinning in front of the saloon for a long time, before suddenly the wind stills, and standing there in the street is a woman who looks enough like the face in the mirror that I think we must be related somehow. Her skin is lighter than mine, her eyes a smoky green where mine cast amber and brown. Her hair hangs around her face, softening the angles that make my skin seem sharp. Unlike mine, hers is red and blonde, colors that I know somehow are not a part of our genetic structure. Her tight form is clad in leather, black leather pants and boots with a red leather vest over what I think is black silk. But none of that is the important part. No, that falls to the leathery black wings that sprout from her back. They stretch out twice as long as her arms reach, then settle back, folding behind her. I told you I would find you, Quinn, the stranger says, clearly expecting me to know who I am and who she is. I raise an eyebrow and step down off the sidewalk. The air still feels wrong, sick, and it makes me not want to get any closer. Here I am, I reply, in what I think is a neutral enough voice. Unconsciously, I mimic her posture, feet set, shoulder width apart, hands on my hips. When I realize it, I shift, crossing my arms instead. What in the devil? I hear Wayland mutter, and I can just about feel the way he pulls Billsy back from the edge of the sidewalk. The stranger grins, her eyes glowing hot. Maybe not the devil, but close enough if you listen to some. Isn't that right, Quinn? Folks around here call me McCandon, I offer, wondering how this would play out, how much I needed to worry about this woman with an older version of my face and seriously scary black wings. She snorts, rustling those wings before she steps closer. Seriously? You're taking that name after what he did? She stops just over an arm's reach away, her eyes on the scab and bruising near my hairline. Wait, you don't remember, do you? Hell, I knew the bastard got his hands on you, but you got away. Figured you for hiding out, not forgetting. Got away? Shit, Quinn. I would have tried to come sooner if I'd known. I shake my head as concern floods her face. You're not here to hurt me? I ask, confused by the way the air still hangs sticky with bad intentions. I think you've had enough hurt for 1 millennium, don't you? I shrug noncommittally. That seems to be the story written in my skin. She nods, her green eyes dark with something I think is remorse. I know. Her eyes rake over the ramshackle town, then behind me to where Waylon and Billsy are still eyeballing the two of us. Bar, she asks. I nod, turning with her as she slings an arm around my shoulder, and we move together back toward the door. Waylon drags Billsy backwards into the place, keeping wide berth around the two of us as he deposits the boy near the end of the bar and slips back in behind, producing a second cup he puts next to mine, pouring a healthy dose of hooch into it. She sits, straddling the stool as she ruffles her wings to keep from sitting on them, then lifts the cup and dumps the booze straight down her throat, though her face twists and reddens until I'm half sure she's going to spew it all over Waylon. After a long minute, she manages to swallow, her lips curling into a snarl. What in the actual fuck was that? I snort, lifting my cup to finish the hideous beverage I've been sipping on before she blew into town. Local stuff. Waylon here makes it. She shakes her head and reaches into her pocket to pull out a silver flask, opening it and taking a heavy hit before saluting Waylon with it. No offense to the man, but I deserve better than that after what it took to find my sister before the others. Sister? Waylon asks, his eyes narrowing and skipping from my face to hers and back. Is that so, McCandon? Well, aside from the whole wings thing, she looks enough like me for it to be true, I respond, flitting my glance back to the black leather sprouting from her back, trying to see how she was wearing the shirt and vest while trying not to look like I was looking. You did have them once, she says, fucking McCandon. She shakes her head and takes another hit off her flask before she sighs once and looks me in the eye. Okay, your name is Quince Carr, and you are the daughter of... She glances at the others who are clearly listening intently. We can talk about that later. I'm your older sister, Erin. When the gates opened and all the various demons and monsters and gods and whatnot all came tumbling out into this world, we got dropped out too. We got separated. It took me decades to find you. I shake my head, not following her meaning. You know you're talking crazy, right? Waylon says, as if that's helpful at all. But Erin just smirks and taps her cup on the bar. Just pour, bar boy. Wouldn't expect the likes of you to know what I'm saying. It was way, way before your time. He looks skeptical, but pours anyway, filling both her cup and mine, which she repays by fishing a fistful of coin from her pocket and holding it out to him. I can't keep straight which ones you like this side of nowhere. Take what you want. Waylon fishes a few coins out with a nod, then turns to pretend he isn't actually listening. So when I do find you, McCandon's got himself set up as some sort of pseudo-preacher man with this weird book that I think used to be a novel, that he's using as scripture, and you just fit into his story, so he presented you to his followers as proof of whatever it is the book says. Never mind, he's one of us. She shakes her head and sips at her drink. Well, not one of us as in you and me, but one of us that fell out of the other world. He's just masquerading as one of them. She juts her chin out in Waylon's direction. Masquerading as one of them, I parrot back to her. There's something tickling in the black of my memory, but I can't tease it out. Different world from us. Not that it matters now. We're all stuck here. His name was the only thing that I had rattling around my empty head, and we had assumed it was mine. I feel sick to think I've been wearing it for weeks. McCandon. The name tastes wrong to me now that I know it's the name of the man responsible for my scars. Even if Erin hasn't said so, I know it's true. He burned me. I can see it, a bubbling pot of oil coming closer and closer to me, ready to pour over my already wounded back. Her voice is dark when she speaks again. He chained you, forced you to work in his fields and building his damn church after ripping out your wings so you couldn't escape. You were little more than a child when we fell. He convinced his followers that they could save your soul by purging your mortal body. They beat you daily while they read from that book of his. He was the one who burned you, though. Acid, oil, even heated rebar shoved through you. His inventive torture outdid anything our father could have thought of, bastard that he is. She's describing how I got my scars, and I want to turn away, try to hide the truth of her words because it was worse than anything I had imagined. Flashes spark behind my eyes, her words blossoming into memory fragments, each one sharp enough to cut me open, and in only seconds I find myself gasping for air, sliding off the bar stool to bend over. I suck air into me and close my eyes, trying to will the rush of pain to subside. I feel someone behind me, hands and blade, as my flesh tears and something is torn from my back. Blood, hot and thick, burns my skin as I fall to my knees, screaming out as he goes to work on the other side. When I open my eyes, I'm on my knees on the ancient wooden floor, and I half expect to find a pair of bloody wings on the floor beside me. It is tears that burn my face, not blood, and I can't say that anything beyond the memory of being severed from my wings has surfaced, but it's more than I had before this moment. Erin is kneeling beside me, holding my cup of hooch. Drink, she murmurs, handing it to me, and I obey, my hands shaking. I down the drink, nodding when she asks me if I'm ready to get up. Her hands support me when my knees tremble, and they feel warm and kind. I have so many questions that I don't know how to ask. What gates were opened and why? What was on the other side? What other worlds did she mean? Which were we, demons, monsters, or gods? Though the air still feels sick and wrong, so I'm thinking we must fall into one of the first two. You remembering now? Erin asks, sipping from her cup and wincing. Just bits. I swallow around a memory of flames on my skin and thrust my cup at Waylon for a refill. Mostly pain. She nods like that makes sense to her. I don't mean to rush you or anything, but McCandon has teamed up with hunters, and last I knew they weren't a whole day behind me. We should probably get moving. I stiffen at the thought. For all that she looks like me, I don't know her, and I have no idea who is looking for us or why. Hunters? I ask, nodding my thanks to Waylon. She sighs. They don't care nothing about purging our sins, but they assume that if we came from the other side, we're trouble. Shoot us in the head just as soon as they look at us. She drained her cup and set it back on the bar. They tracked us after I came to get you. Shot at us while I tried to fly with you hugged up to me. I dropped you when they grazed my wing. Her wings rustle, and I can see a scab along the bony edge. McCandon found you before I did, but this time you fought back. By the time I found him, you had escaped, and he was nursing some broken ribs. And then there's Dad. He's pissed and probably still looking for us. Dad? I shake my head, trying to find some memory of someone I had known by that title. The empty blackness of my memory just stares back at me. Yeah, he's pretty well occupied handling that whole war thing back east, but he's still got room to be pissed that we took Mom's side of things. Spared some of his best trackers to come find us, and I probably lit up the beacons riding the wind into town. My head hurts with all of the revelations, or partial revelations, because almost none of what Aaron is saying makes anything like sense to me. I'm still trying to decide how to respond when the bar's door opens and Mock is standing there with her ancient shotgun and the on-again, off-again sheriff of Dead End, B.B. LaRoe. He's wearing his badge this time, pinned to the left side of his sweat-soaked denim shirt. He nods to Waylon, stepping around Mock and swiping his dirty old hat off his head to scratch at his bald spot. Got trouble blowing up the south end, B.B. says. Near 5 men on bikes, coming hard. Word from out old Marshall Way is that he's looking for our friend here. His eyes flick to me, then realize I'm not alone. Who is this? Never mind who I am. Quinn, we have to go now. And what happens to Dead End if I go? I ask, frowning at her. If this McCandon guy did all this to me, what's he going to do with them that helped me? Erin's face clouds, and for a minute she looks angry enough to clear the room. But the anger drains just as fast as it came. You know it's McCandon, she asks. I figure he's got the most to lose if I'm remembering him right. Somehow I don't think our father's sending men on motorbikes. Not sure how I know that, but I do. Somehow I know he has his own ways of handling his wayward daughters. I figured we had a few hours before he caught my trail, Erin mutters, standing. Unless he found yours. Them hunters he's riding with are mean sons of bitches. She sighs and lets her wings rustle as she cracks her neck. Maybe it's time we put McCandon down anyway. Ain't that your name, hun? Mock asks, her sharp eyes pinning me in place. No, it ain't her name, Erin snaps. She was just a child when he grabbed her, forced her to live and work his piece of land out east, where he found her after the bang. At least when he wasn't trying to purge her nature. Erin, this is Mock. She's the one that took me in when they found me, I say, trying to soothe over the ruffling I can see on Mock's face. Mock, this is my sister Erin. She came looking for me. Found you too, I see, Mock says, letting the earlier tension leave her face. You staying or going, she asks, and I can feel all of the eyes in the room on me. Don't want to bring you no trouble, I murmur. Trouble is easy enough to come by out this way, Mock says with a shrug. Just trying to know if we're covering your tracks or having your back. By now we can hear the engines of the bikes, and it's too late for any choice but the one where we face down the son of a bitch that took my wings, which I still really can't quite wrap my head around. It certainly explains the black marks on my back. Erin gestures at the door with her chin, and I nod, stepping around Mock and BB to ease through the door. Erin and I step out into the strange dark that had come with her, then out onto the asphalt, forcing the riders to come to a stop. They stop in a V shape that puts their leader ahead of them all. He's a big man, nearly 7 foot, with thick shoulders and arms that make his jacket look like it's going to bust the seams. He drops his kickstand and throws his leg up behind him as he dismounts his bike. He takes off his helmet and goggles, revealing dark hair that's gone mostly gray and gray eyes that stare accusingly at me until I have to look away. Shame flushes through me, my face burning with it as he steps closer. Nearby, I hear the pumping of Mock's shotgun, and the crunch of his boots on the asphalt stops. That's about enough of you, Mock says, her voice full of piss and gravel. If you don't want your precious bits blown to bits, get back on your ride and leave. Beside me, Erin is quiet, but I can feel her rage. It burns and heats up the air between us. All of the men are off their bikes now as their leader lifts a hand, as if to bring peace to the situation, though the guns on their hips belie his words. No disrespect, ma'am, he says gently, his eyes and face softening as he turns to Mock. I've come for the devil. He gestures at me with that same hand. You have no idea the pain and suffering her kind will bring you. She knows me, knows her place. Don't you, devil? Erin hisses, and his eyes lift to her. His hand lifts a silver symbol as big as my foot out of his jacket and shoves it toward her, as if it will somehow spare him her wrath. It's vaguely familiar, and I know that under some of the melted skin on my lower back, there's a place where he branded me with it. A circle set with a diamond within a triangle. He starts reciting some words in a language that echoes around in my brain, words I know somehow. They are words meant to hurt us, though I feel nothing. Your little talisman has no power here, preacher, Erin says through her growl of disgust. The great green god has given me a mission to bring redemption even to devils like you, he counters, taking a step forward. His step is answered by 2 more shotguns cocking, and I look up to see Waylon and BB flanking Erin and I, their guns pointed at McCandon's chest. They have deceived you, citizens. These 2 are devils, abominations from beyond the gates, and if you shelter them, they will steal your souls. Eat your children. His voice is smooth and deep, and it reaches inside me, plucking at the strings of my shame. I can feel the heat as my face flushes and something in me wants to fall to my knees to beg forgiveness. It's Mock who fires first, a load of buckshot tearing into the asphalt at his feet, causing him to step back. Maybe so, but there are devils, so you'll kindly take your religion and shove it up your tailpipe before you leave. There's an echoing sound as the hunters draw their weapons, and Erin shoves me as shots ring out. I stumble into Waylon, who is standing solid beside me, his elbow pushing me back behind him. Mock drops the biker nearest her, his face gone. BB drops another, even as Erin takes 2 steps forward, her wings unfurling, as her eyes flash green and she screams words that echo in the pit of my stomach. Dark energy releases from her like a wave, all black and angry, sweeping over the men. McCandon alone stands against it, his talisman held in front of him, but his last 2 companions do not fare as well, falling and scraping across the road until the wind dies down. McCandon is reciting some prayer or incantation, his eyes on Erin as I rejoin her. There are words pounding in my brain to be said, and I can feel the power of them. Beside me, Erin takes my hand, and we step forward together until we are but inches from McCandon's talisman. I open my mouth to speak, and the words tumble out of me, echoed by Erin. The silver begins to melt, flaming until McCandon drops it with a squeal that is part indignation, part terror. As we continue to recite the words, he pales and steps backward, pulling the chain from his neck and dropping the silver to the asphalt. Mock joins us, her wrinkled hand touching my arm gently to let me know we'd done enough. Her shotgun is still pointed at McCandon, who is now standing with his bike between him and us. Mount up and ride out, or die like your friends, Mock says, and let it be known that here in Dead End, these 2 are welcome, but your kind ain't. Go on now, get. For a long moment, he just stands there staring at her. Then he nods and mounts his bike, sparing a glance for the men who came here with him, all of them unmoving on the road. Neither Erin nor I move until he is a dot in the distance, nearly unseeable. The black in the skies rolled back, following him and leaving behind a late afternoon sky of brilliant blue. Then it's like all the air goes out of me and I sag down, ending up on my knees, gulping in air. Erin's hand is warm on my back, rubbing slow circles as she surveys the damage. Mock is quietly taking charge, directing BB and Billsy and Waylon to dispose of the bodies before the normal Saturday night crowd moves in from the ranches. She lays claims to one of the bikes with a grin that is almost predatory. You used to ride when I was your age, she says to Erin. Erin's laugh is musical and sweet, pinging something in my chest. It's a sound I once knew well. I'm older than you are, old woman, Erin says. Quinn, too, but sure, take the bike. I like the red one anyway. I lurch up to my feet, my exhaustion pulling on my bones. I point to the black bike with flames on the tank, and nod. I'm pretty sure I can ride it, though not right at this moment. Mock nods. That's settled then. You girls go get some rest. We'll finish up here. I point to the rooming house, and Erin slips an arm around my back. Together we cross the street and enter the place that has been my home for the last few weeks. In my little room, I sit on the bed, trying to reason my way through all that has happened in the last few hours. You want to stay, don't you? Erin asks, sitting beside me. Can we decide later, I ask? She brushes my floppy hair out of my face with a nod. Sure. Rest. Erin hums a vaguely familiar tune as I lay down, and soon I am asleep. Dreams of flames and burns fill my head, but Erin's voice drowns them, replacing them with memories of a childhood filled with laughter and racing through fields of a place so different from what I have known since waking here, yet they feel as if I have known them forever. When I wake, more than a day has passed, and while I slept, Erin has made herself to home. I find her out behind the old rooming house, standing beside a well that had gone dry decades before, speaking those words that twist in my stomach. Somehow I know what she is doing, calling forth water from deep inside the earth. She looks up as I join her, a smile on her lips. I figure if we were staying, I should help out. Water seems a good place to start. What about McCandon and the others you said would come looking? I ask. She shrugs. Let them come. Good a place as any to make a stand. She grins and turns toward the house. This'll take a while. Let's see what we can do with that bar boy's hooch. We may well be devils, monsters. I don't know. Mock has embraced the idea, though, and there's a new sign on the road into town letting it be known that the devils are in Dead End. She's taken to wearing a gun belt, and old BB has deputized a few new men. I feel safe as Aaron and I cross the street, and it feels unfamiliar. I haven't felt safe in a long time. Hey, look, it's the Devils of Dead End, Billsy says as we enter the saloon. It's busier than usual for a late Sunday afternoon. Everyone gossiping about the goings-on the day before. The voice is still, and all eyes turn to the two of us. Aaron smirks at me. The Devils of Dead End. I think I like that. She ruffles her wings and heads to the bar. Hey, bar boy, set us up. The hooch is still awful, but the company has improved. Slowly, the ranch hands and local troublemakers go back to their conversations, and we sit ourselves at the bar, just like it was a normal day. As normal as any, I suppose. So there you have it. If you want to know more about sirens, you can find them online. Just look for Sirens Conference on Google. And like I said, you can pick this up on Amazon. Just give the title a look up, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry for the cats meowing in the middle of it, making me laugh. So anyway, yeah, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, whatever you're up to, whatever you're doing. That there's a good dinner awaiting you, and maybe some good quality time with your people. As for me, I'm making some chicken lasagna tonight. So, there's that. So thank you for joining me. We'll do this again sometime. Bye.